Thank you so much for being here with us, Deirdre.
I'm thrilled to be here, Andy, and to be serving all the people that you serve.
Absolutely. Our AVAIYA community is so excited that you're here and here to talk about a really important topic. So let's talk love compass. What is that? What is a love compass?
Well, what I began to realize both through my own personal journey, but also working with people over the last 35, 40 years, is that we get lost and we start looking out there to solve our problems in here. I know that's not news to you or the people you work with, but the question is, how do we do that? And, my background is in trauma. I worked at Bessel van der Kolk's clinic. That's where I got my first steps. And then I did 13 years of mentoring around attachment. And I love all that. And I realized that is why we don't heal our trauma, is because of the underlying attachment issues. But the issue is, I sat there and I was listening to all this incredible research. And I thought, but how do I change in here? I love it in my head, but I needed to change in here so that I stopped grasping out there and I could work with other people around that so people could actually come home to themselves. So I developed this idea of the love compass because it's really about coming from inside ourselves, not from our head, but really from our hearts, not from our nervous system, but really our hearts. That's where it's all about. We all want to love and be loved. But if we're somehow disconnected, that's where we get lost, and that's where we fall into old habits and don't find our way home to ourselves or have the relationships we want. So this idea is that how do we be vertically aligned? I call it a vertical axis, to be connected to the great spirit of all, and also grounded into the mother of the earth, but connecting to all our parts inside, as well as then being able to be connected on the horizontal axis with people like you and other people outside of ourselves. So where's the common denominator? Our hearts. So that's the love compass.
Beautiful. Yes. And it's so applicable to this conversation of conquering codependency today, because so many people who struggle with codependent tendencies obviously struggle with trying to get their needs all fulfilled out here. And what else can I grasp at to fill that hole I feel like I have within myself? So that's so important. I love it. What about the 5 steps? What are the 5 steps that we can all go through to help us on this journey?
I came up with this idea of the transformational model, which is really, if we look at all the different processes, psychological processes, and the ancient wisdom traditions of what a transformation includes. The first piece, from an attachment point of view, is we push against something. We see this with kids and infants as they grow. We see it in our bodies as we push against something so that we can actually stand up and move forward. So this idea of pushing against is so important. In the attachment research, we call it protest. So I protest against something. I don't like it. I don't like it. But I began to think of myself, how inside me do I know this isn't the way it should be? Right? That's what a protest is. This isn't right. It should be different. But something inside me knows it should be different. But what? So that idea of the protest is so critical. That's the first step. And when I push against something, I say, no, that's not it. Well, what is it? What do I want? And most of the time we don't know. And what I began to realize is that it's because so many of us have had to disconnect from what we need, these foundational attachment needs of feeling safe in the world, belonging to a certain community or family or situation, having reassurance and comfort, to be able to be attuned to have somebody connect to us and understand us from the inside, to have guidance and mentoring about how do you actually do something, to be able to get through conflict and resolve that conflict and repair it so that the relationships are stronger, and how to live with a sense of well-being. So when we get to know what our needs are, there's a sense of ease inside. Oh, that's what lands us inside. Okay, so now I know what I need. The third step is, can I actually let my body fill up with that? Can I let my heart have that need? I call it longing. Because that longing is the propellant fuel, which will actually take us where we want to go. But then people say, but I don't know where I want to go. I don't know what I need. I can't even imagine it could be better than this. But that's not true because we know it from the peak performance literature that somebody can absolutely know. You just have to start imagining it. And what I do is I help people make it so granular, so bite-sized that the next step is just a no-brainer. But then once we know where we want to go, and then there's a lot of turbulence about getting there, right? And the immediate reaction is, oh my God, this is too hard. I'm just going to go back to what's comfortable. I go back to my comfort zone. But that's what's kept us in that protective space before. It doesn't allow us to grow, develop, and flourish. So it's really, how do we not only know where we want to go, but then how do we navigate the turbulence, surf it, so we can actually come through to the other side. So those are the 5 steps.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you going through those steps with us. And I'd love it if we dive a little deeper. You kind of mentioned that when you were talking about the steps, but why is it that codependency originates from not having our needs met?
Well, if we don't, let's just say somebody I was talking to today grew up in a lot of anger in their household, and nobody helped her to figure out what she needed and wanted out of life. So she grew up like afraid, uncertain, unattuned to. And what she did is she started grasping at other people out there to make it easier to do something, rather than looking inside and being able to say, okay, this would help me take the next step forward. So when we reconnect and see, oh, this is what I need attunement. Okay, what would that attunement look like? How would I know what that would look like? How do I know it literally out there? And how do I feel it inside me? And those, breaking it down into those small ways, actually makes somebody take the steps to be less connected to the external out there and be like, okay, this is who I am inside. How do I connect to myself, calm myself, reassure myself, attune to myself, and then take the steps that I need to do with guidance and mentoring and kindness and self-compassion. All those are so important too.
Yeah. So here's a question I'm curious about. Like, so many people with codependent tendencies have a hard time even figuring out what they want or need, or it's at least that's been a challenge for me. There are times where I feel there's so many layers of like coping mechanisms covering up what I want because of past childhood stuff about not getting what I wanted or something. Any thoughts there on people who just like, I don't know what I want. I don't know who I am. I don't like, they just they don't know.
That is the quintessential question, right? Is we don't know, but that's where this great idea of protest comes from, because we're angry at something. We're saying it shouldn't be like this. You should be paying attention to me. Okay, my need is to be paid attention to. Okay, let's look at that. How can we break that down and understand it more, make more sense of that, so that we can see where the disconnect is. Where am I in this moment in time, and where was the unmet need in the past, and how do we link it together so we can actually do something about it? When it's left unlinked in what I call time capsules in the past are floating around, somebody can't actually make a difference because that old storyline keeps running the show. But we are in the present, and there's that disconnect. So we have to link it first so that we can make a change. And that's why people stay codependent, or they stay disconnected in whatever way, because they're disconnected. So how do we reconnect inside? I mean, it sounds so simple, right? But gosh, does it sometimes take time? It takes awareness. It takes growing ourselves from the inside.
Yeah. And I think also, like, so often we project whatever unfinished business we have in our like childhood, relationships with our parents or whatever onto future relationships with spouses or friends or whatever. And yeah, without like knowing that's what we're doing, then yeah, it's very difficult to get out of that pattern. But yeah, linking.
You just named it, that projection. But that can be so helpful when we harness that projection, because we're reenacting it out there. If I can see, okay, I'm doing it out there. What's this about in here?
AVAIYA has changed my life.
AVAIYA has made me the woman I am today.
AVAIYA is my home.
AVAIYA is personal freedom.
AVAIYA is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about AVAIYA.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, AVAIYA, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at AVAIYA is what the world needs.